Hey folks, welcome back. Time for some more L5R 5th edition RPG stuff. Today we're going to be looking at Fields of Victory, the essential guide to warfare in Rokugan. So here we'll learn more about the infamous Lion Clan, who are the most militant of all the clans in Rokugan. Just as a quick summary of what we'll find inside, it says, in this source book, you'll find information for running military campaigns, as well as information on the valiant Lion Clan, including the strongholds of the Lion Clan, as well as the Empire's foremost libraries and academies of military history and learning, rules for the Badger Minor Clan, plus new schools, titles, techniques, equipment, and weapon patterns suited for battle and reconnaissance, and support for GMs, including guidance on running campaigns that feature warfare, expanded mass battle rules, and rules for how to raise, equip, and train an army, and tips for how terrain can change the tide of battle. You can see as well that this is a recent reprint, since it has the Edge Studios imprint on it, and of course you need the special L5R dice to play. As usual, we have lovely artwork on the front here. We've got somebody with a blood-stained katana, although it's quite large, might be an odachi, even a bigger one. Pitched battle going on here, and we have the majestic spires of a castle keep in the background. Perhaps it's a defensive action by the lions here. But let's dig in and see what we get. Once again, lovely end paper artwork we've become accustomed to across the line. And the artwork, once again, without any of the logos, so we can see all the features the artist has provided us with here. Very, very lovely. Then we have, it looks like, 3 major chapters here. So it's a 144-page supplement. We start out with some glorious histories, so it seems like different styles of fighting of different clans. Then we have information on the Badger clan with some new stuff associated with them, along with new weapons, personal effects, and so on. And then in Chapter 3, we have our expanded mass battle rules, battle zones, new titles, and some more details on honor and Bushido, among other things. Then we have the traditional first opening page of kind of scene setting in universe fiction. And then a welcome page, sort of summarizing what we'll find. So it says in Chapter 1, it'll describe the general makeup of great clan armies and recounts the heroic military struggles for Rokugan's past and present. In Chapter 2, we'll introduce the Hardy Badgers, a minor clan appointed as the guardian of Rokugan's northern border, along with rules for creating characters from this clan. And in Chapter 3, Acts of War, we'll offer GM advice on running military-themed campaigns and staging grand battles. As per usual, we'll have adventure seeds scattered throughout, again, really helpful for the GM. So first, Inglorious Histories. So there's a little bit here about armies of the Empire. So there's some details about the basic units that you'll find in a Rokugani army. So you'll have your conscripts. These are forces that are levied from a lord's land, so they're plucked from villages, towns, and cities under control of the lord. They might be provided with sort of secondhand weapons or piecemeal bits of armor. Otherwise, they sort of scavenge and loot stuff from defeated enemies, so not the most favorable way to start battle, I suppose. The Ashigaru are the foot soldiers, and they are kind of the bulk of most Rokugani armies. They're semi-professional soldiers, and they often have more practical battlefield experience. They might be peasants as well, who spend time between planting and harvesting on the battlefield, or they might have left their villages behind entirely to make a career of fighting. They stand at the forefront of most skirmishes between opposing clans. They tend to suffer less casualties than conscripts, but more casualties than bushi. They have light armor and most often long-shafted spears, naginata, or bows. So then we have the bushi. So these are the clan samurai. Bushi are the finest type of soldier in an army. They're the elite soldiers. They fight for glory in the name of their family, clan, and daimyo. And their training is dependent on their family and clan, ranging from the heavily armored spearmen of the Daidoji to the nimble cavalry of the Shinjo, and the dual-wielding swordsmen of the Mirumoto to the ferocious berserkers of the Matsu. Even a single bushi can change the course of battle through displays of martial prowess or stubborn resistance. Then we also have mercenary gaijin, peasants, ronin, and former criminals, who offer their experience in short or long-range combat to any army. Their lives are considered entirely expendable. It's a mercenary's responsibility to take care of their own and maintain their own equipment. They're flexible and can fill any role for which they are qualified. Highly specialized mercenaries, such as shinobi or sailors, may be deployed as needed to achieve special operations. Then we have specialized units as well, so military engineers who build siege engines and field fortifications. So if you need to scale a wall, dig a tunnel, undermine some enemy forts, you'll use them. We have medical practitioners, so these are kind of battlefield medics, trained in advanced treatments for all manner of injuries, and they have basic tools and medicines to heal the soldiers they accompany into battle. Then we have messengers, so armies have to communicate commands using flares and signals and coded messages. Military messengers in their stiff horo or canopy cloaks brave the heat of battle to deliver handwritten notes, coded messages, and desperate shouted orders. So a very important role, but also quite risky. Then we have laborers and servants. So these are non-combatants who are actually often the largest part of an army. So when they must establish themselves in a location for an extended period, you'll bring along a bunch of servants, and those servants will assist the bushi and the lords in getting dressed and maintaining their quarters. They'll clean, cook, tend and raise animals and crops, making traveling armies seem more like mobile cities. Then you have shugenja. So they use the elemental forces against their foes. They're highly volatile additions to any army. One cannot count on the kami's favor at any given time, as their motivations and their feelings about humans are subject to change on a whim. However, a well-planned elemental strike may shift the terrain to an army's advantage or scatter an otherwise impervious foe. Then we have the hierarchy of units within the armies. So a single unit of conscripts, ashigaru, bushi, or specialists comprise the simplest building block of Rokugani army. They're organized into groups of 10 to 50 soldiers based on their primary weapon. Then you have the unit leader, or kashida, who's a member of a unit who commands their fellow soldiers into battle. They also direct the non-combatants, such as medics and so on. Above that, you have the sergeants, or gunso, which we saw in the previous book, is actually a role or a title that can be taken by player characters. They lead a single squad comprising 2 or more basic or specialized units and orders them in the heat of battle. While they don't have a comprehensive view of the larger tactical choices at play, they're keenly aware of their squad's movements and successes in battle. They must make effective use of the command skill to direct troops in real time, and must know when to pull back if their squad becomes overwhelmed. Above them, we have the lieutenant, or chui. They command several sergeants and have greater impact on immediate and reactionary battle tactics. They must make use of the tactics and performance skills as they assess the shifting tides of battle and communicate orders to their sergeants. Above them, we have captains, or taisa. They are high in the command structure and often gain their rank through family ties, but nepotism there. Most belong to a provincial daimyo's family, or they may be an extended relative of a family daimyo. They often oversee several chui, or lieutenants, and are thus responsible for hundreds of soldiers. They take a bird's eye view, and they must use government and tactics skills to plan and weigh the risks of specific formations and maneuvers. Above them, we have the general, or taisho, the military head of an army, answerable only to their own daimyo, and usually leads thousands into combat. They also serve as their liege's hatamoto, or direct retainers. They establish a larger battle plan, often with a team of advisors and attendants, and see that it is executed to the letter. In extremely large battles, multiple generals serving different lords may need to work together to coordinate multiple armies. They lean heavily on tactics and even game skills to effectively outplay their enemy. Then we have the shogun. Should Rokugan ever face an existential crisis requiring all its armies be united as a single coalition, the emperor has the prerogative to appoint a shogun, or military commander-in-chief. This theoretical title has never been bestowed, so military scholars can only theorize as to how the position would overlap with the Emerald Champion. Then we have some example NPCs here. We have Sakai, dedicated Ashigaru. He is the child of a humble farmer, was conscripted into a great clan army at an early age. Despite their inexperience, they showed unexpected skill on the battlefield and lived long enough to develop the courage and cleverness associated with samurai. They became part of an Ashigaru force garrisoned along the border between 2 clans. So they have a relatively decent array of skills here, with the advantages of indomitable will, but a disadvantage of social intolerance. They carry a katana, yari, and yumi, as well as Ashigaru armor. There's a pretty decent physical damage reduction of 3, and as a special ability, they are an Ashigaru veteran. As a support action during a mass battle, Sakai may make a TN1 Tactics Earth check targeting up to 2 cohorts with the rank formation ability. If Sakai succeeds, each of those cohorts' leaders adds 1 kept void dice set to opportunity to the next check they make. Could be very helpful for your allies in battle. Then we have a look at the Imperial Legions. So these are the Emperor's standing army, a single unified military force tasked with patrolling and defending imperial power. Their ranks include the best soldiers from across the empire and all the clans, united in their dedication. So we have a bit then about their origins, how their command and leadership is organized. And then we have an example NPC here of Seppun Genshin, a captain. So quite a bit stronger than our Ashigaru from before in terms of his stats. Good deal of glory, honor, and status here you can see as well. He has the advantages of being seasoned, but the disadvantage of bluntness in his interpersonal interactions. He carries a katana and wakizashi, and his ability is authoritative negotiation. When making a social skill check to pursue imperial interests or the emperor's agenda, Seppun Genshin may receive up to 3 strife in order to re-roll that many void dice showing blank results. Very handy. And again, we have adventure seeds really throughout the book, which is great help for the GM to make use of all this new information. So now we get into the army styles of the individual clans. So the Crab, the stories of their defensive capabilities are legendary throughout Rokugan. They defend the Kaiyu wall against innumerable monstrosities, but that has the effect of pruning the Crab fighting force down to only the best and hardiest soldiers. As such, the clan's army is full of stalwart, unyielding veterans who know equally well how to survive and when to put their lives on the line for the greater good. They're possibly the most powerful and dedicated to the Emerald Empire. Moreover, crab medics, sharpened from years of service defending the wall, provide exceptional support. And then we have a handy list of strengths, weaknesses, and typical compositions and signature warriors for each clan. So for the crab, they have the strengths of incredible defense, excellent tacticians, highly skilled battlefield support. Their weaknesses, they're slow to muster their forces, and more reactive than offensive, because they're often in a defensive posture against the Shadowlands. Their typical composition is spear-wielding Ashigaru, heavily armored Bushi, and scouts. And the signature warrior type is a Hida defender. Then we have the crane. Much as the crane's reputation in court would suggest, its army excels at subtle artistry. Each is held to exacting standards in swordsmanship, archery, and mounted combats. So their strengths are highly skilled duelists and adaptable units. Their weaknesses is their smaller army, lack of specialization, and predictable assets. Their typical composition is archer-based Ashigaru and highly skilled Bushi and Ronin. And their signature warrior type is a Daidoji Iron Warrior. In the Dragon clan, we have the rugged terrain of their territory makes gathering and mobilizing an active army quite difficult. At best, the Dragon boasts what might be called the hardiest, most specialized militia in all of Rokugan. So, monastic life instructor dictates each soldier's role in the military. However, the Dragon armies are less concerned with rank, honor, or status than with each soldier's role in the greater battle plan. As such, these armies operate as some of the smallest but most flexible military bodies in Rokugan. So that's reflected in their strengths. They have independent troops, an adaptable structure, and monastic support structure. Their weaknesses are small armies, dependent on leadership style, and they're weak on large open battlefields. Their typical unit composition is small units of warrior, monks, and swordsmen, and their signature warrior is Togashi Ise-zumi. Then we have the Venerable Lion Clan, the most breathtaking fighting force in all of Rokugan. But that force is also the most unwieldy to maneuver and transport due to its size. Many famous writers refer to a lion army as a mobile city that moves across the plains. So their advantages, of course, they have massive size and incredible logistical skills to support their massive armies. Their weaknesses, lack of stealth and subtlety, because they are giant mobile cities. They have difficulty navigating treacherous terrain due to reliance on excellent lion roads. Their typical unit composition includes Bushi with large numbers of sword, spear, and Naginata Ashigaru units. And their signature warrior is the Matsu Berserker. Then we have the Phoenix Clan. They enter each battle with a key understanding of the region's terrain and spiritual climate. More so than any other military, their army taps into the elemental potential of its environment to utilize it against its foes. So their strengths are powerful Shugenja, capable of harnessing the elements, and adept tacticians. Their weaknesses, they're too dependent on Shugenja, which, as we read before, sometimes the kami are just not on your side, so that can be a weakness. Lackluster cavalry and archers. Their typical composition will be infantry augmented by Shugenja, and the signature warrior is the Isawa Elementalist. The Scorpion clan has always favored subtlety and underhanded tactics. It is no surprise, then, that its army operates in a similar fashion. It places a strong emphasis on stealth and surveillance. They love to send an invasion of scouts and spies eager for information. They're also notorious for its preference for traveling under cover of darkness. So their strengths are psychological tactics, stealth, and traveling and night marching. Their weaknesses, small armies, highly situational tactics, and mediocre infantry. Typical unit composition includes scouts and shinobi, as well as Ashigaru and archer Bushi, and the signature warrior type of the Shosuro Infiltrator. The Unicorn clan are masters of horses and swift deployment, so they love cavalry. The typical Unicorn army comprises two distinct forces, pods of mounted cavalry with scouts to cut through the opposition, and heavily outfitted troops of foot soldiers equipped to fight in even the most extreme conditions. So due to their cavalry focus, they excel in open spaces, they have a massive army, and their tactics are kind of unfamiliar to other clans. Their weaknesses, they're ineffective in tighter terrain, obviously cavalry will struggle in that respect, and poor communication between their units. Their typical composition will include lots of cavalry, both heavy and light, archers, often also on horseback, and foot soldiers. Their signature warrior is the Utaku Battle Maiden. So when the armies are in action, as a culture, Rokugan is steeped in militarism. Every samurai either is a warrior or plays a role that supports warriors and enables them to engage in battle. That said, the deployment of an army is a costly and time-consuming endeavor. Given the significant expense of fielding a military force, most provincial daimyo have relatively small garrisons ready to mobilize in times of peace. Expansion and reinforcement of a clan's army generally only occurs if it's to be employed for a specific purpose, such as securing a clan's lands, fighting another clan, defending the empire itself, or assisting the Emerald Magistrates, or addressing internal conflict within the clan itself. Because conflicts between clans tend to attract the attention of the imperial court, they deserve closer examination. Generally, the exact nature of such a conflict is determined by whether it has received imperial sanction, as described in sanctioned conflicts. In the absence of sanction, clans usually, although not always, limit themselves to small-scale actions. So really, if the Emperor allows you to get into an open fight in a sanctioned conflict, then the scale of that conflict may expand. Otherwise, you will have relatively small skirmishes. And here we have an example of Ikoma Hiroshika, advocate at court, a familiar face in the imperial court in Otosan Uchi, appearing frequently before the throne to argue the finer points of what qualifies as war within the empire. So he has some pretty decent stats here, a great deal of honor and glory as well, so well respected in court. He's armed with just a wakizashi, the smaller companion of the katana, and he is known for making powerful arguments. When making a courtesy check, if Hiroshika does not keep any dice with results containing strife symbols, he may spend opportunity in the following manner. The target of the check receives strife equal to opportunity spent this way. So he's good at breaking people's composure down. So the people of Rokugan have an intimate relationship with their history, the teachings of the kami having allowed them to keep intricate records going back almost to the dawn of the empire. So here we have some information basically about the records of warfare throughout the history of Rokugan. Various key lessons gathered from history all the way back to the days of the kami. We have some particular famous tomes of leadership and influence. The Sword by Karita, Lies by Bayushi, Mirumoto's Niten, and the Tao of Shinsei. Of course, we heard about Shinseism in one of our previous videos. So there's a few examples here of particularly great libraries across the empire that hold many of the famous military histories documenting what has happened over the ages of Rokugan's long history. And then we meet, as an example here, Ikoma Nakidori. She considers herself to be a songbird locked away in the gilded cages of the high histories, also called the Ikoma libraries. She has an inspiring presence and is a great historian, but a war injury that makes her less capable in a martial sense. Armed with just a wakizashi, again, since she's focused more on the social, she has the ability of lion expertise. So when she assists another character making a scholar check involving military or lion clan history, the character may roll 2 additional void dice instead of just 1. There you go. Lots of knowledge from her background in the high histories. Then we have the Kaiyu Engineering Academy. So that's where the greatest inventions of the empire are created. It's the only school in the empire devoted solely to the creation of technologies. They create increasingly cunning and deadly traps, ballistae, alchemical firing launchers, siege engines, and more. Then we have the secret written histories of the Unicorn Clan. The Lion Clan champion Akado Tokoyama ordered the construction of a new castle and then resulted in the Akado War College. This includes a training grounds at the Akado War College, the oldest military academy in Rokugan. And here we see a lovely map of that area. So it's quite extensive. We have the Daimyo's chambers, the Keep of the Kitsu archives. So that'll be where we'll find lots of knowledge of Lion Clan history, presumably. Tombs of the 5, dining halls, kitchens. There's the Akado War College, which is quite significant in size itself. Many lecture rooms for learning about military history. Halls of Glory. Many barracks, quite nice looking barracks actually, for Lion Clan members. A significantly sized armory, massive dojo and training grounds. So yeah, very much specialized and very significant training area for the soldiers of the massive lion armies. I really love the style of these maps. I keep saying that, but I really do. Then there's some teaching details about the teachings of the War College and the curriculum, and there's a adventure seed to do with that as well. Adjoining the War College is the Ikoma Hall of Scribes, still a very large library full of vital information for any military scholar. It was developed as an aid to the War College, with enormous sections on all topics that could be aid to future military campaigns. Then we have the presence of the supernatural. So there are Kitsu shrines in the War College, which are subject to an unusual amount of supernatural activity. And here we have Matsu Dojo, a graduate of the Akado War College, who combines the fury of his Matsu mother and the braggadocio of his Ikoma father. He encompasses all the skill and passion of the Lion Clan. So he is quite powerful, very high glory at 75. He has an inspiring presence and well-rounded education, but tends to be a bit flamboyant. He holds a graduate's katana with a deadliness of 5 or 7, ceremonial, durable, and razor-edged. His abilities are the Roar of the Lion, so as a scheme and support action during a skirmish, he may receive up to 3 strife, to force the same number of enemy characters at range 0 to 3 to make a TN2 meditation check. Each character who fails suffered the daze condition. So it seems that he can intimidate enemies to such a degree that unless they can center themselves, they will be dazed and knocked off their balance. So now we have some details about the Empire itself at war, including the extensive war against Fulang and the Shadowlands. So we've got details of the rise of the Empire, the 2 tumultuous centuries that passed following that, the war against Fulang comprising much of the strife, but by no means all of it. So there's a great deal of war history here, illustrated in a quite exciting style down here at the bottom. Then we have some of the lessons gained from history. A lot of this which was revolutionized and developed into military tutelage thanks to Akodo, and sort of then turned into a curriculum and style of warfare via the Lion Clan and their war college. So then in the early 2nd century, the Lion Clan received a dramatic opportunity to prove its martial supremacy over the other clans. So it waged war against the rebellious forces of Doji Takamori, the so-called Bloody Crane, who dared to look at the imperial throne with eyes of avarice. And here we have an example of the Battle of Regret's shadow. So we see the movements of Tokoyama's main force, encircling force, and the overall battle terrain. Otosan Uchi, which is the main city of the imperial throne, and Shiro Akodo, so that's in the Lion Clan territories. So yeah, it seems that this was quite a serious military conflict and led to a great deal of additional glory for the Lion Clan. The outcome of the Battle of Regret's shadow firmly established the military prowess of the Lion, even after the death of the kami Akodo in the year 99, while also clearly demonstrating the clan's ongoing dedication to the kami and the celestial order. So they were able to succeed over the battles of the Bloody Crane. Then we have the Battle of the Broken Hooves in the 4th century, where the empire was assailed by Assyria's external threat. This was a group of Ujik horse lords, largely nomadic people who live on the steppes and grasslands to the northwest and west of Rokugan. So sounds a bit like the Mongols to me. Here we have an example of the forces in conflict here. We have the horse lords, the forces of the Lord of Grass, and then we have Kodo Kimiko's forces, surrounded by spearmen, Ashigaru, and some archers in the middle here. Then we have some more history. A furious invasion in the year 376. A particularly charismatic leader, known only as the Lord of Grass, had risen to prominence among the Ujik. So I guess that relates actually to the diagram on the previous page here. So it was apparent to the Lion Clan champion Akodo Kimiko that stalwart bravery and skill at arms were not going to be enough to defeat the Ujik. She maintained a delicate balance between carefully readying her army to face the invaders and keeping her impatient generals and commanders at bay. Finally, as the Ujik closed in on Kudentomba, Kimiko arrayed her army to meet them on the plains north of the palace. So her tactical cunning soon became apparent. Sodden rice paddies on her army's right flank stymied the Ujik, limiting their maneuvers to the front and left. The Lion employed portable shields of wicker and wood, carried in place by the peasant levies, which sheltered the ranks of samurai from the worst of the attackers' archers. Finally, most of the Lion warriors armed themselves with overlong spears and adopted square formations with soldiers facing outward in every direction. Archers enclosed in the middle could fire in any direction from a position of relative safety. After a long bloody day of fighting, the Lords of Grass pulled the remaining Ujik back out of archery range and arrayed them in a single huge formation. The Lion braced for a massive final charge, but the mounted invaders only raised a single echoing shout, apparently a salute to their unbroken Lion opponents, then turned and thundered off westward. So wow, a resounding victory for the incredible tactics of Kimiko. And then we still have more military history here. The wars against Ichiban. This is the evil sorcerer we heard a bit about in the Celestial Realms book. So he is known as perhaps one of the most reviled names in imperial history next to Fu Leng. His original identity is the subject of much debate. What is known is that in the year 510, the Lion, Crane, and Crab Clan champions all perished under mysterious circumstances. With such dreadful events unfolding, a Scorpion Clan magistrate, Soshi Takosho, undertook an investigation that eventually led him to the imperial capital, and then he uncovered an insidious plot where a cult of blood speakers led by the elusive Ichiban was engaged in a foul ritual to animate the dead who had been laid to rest in the city's tombs and catacombs. This was fortunate because otherwise the city would have been caught completely unaware and overrun by the implacable horde of the undead. Virtually the entire population would have been slaughtered. There we go. And now the pages turn black, perhaps to represent the seriousness of the situation. So after this decisive battle, the emperor declared that from then on, all bodies must be cremated rather than buried or entombed to prevent their later reanimation by other vile desecrations of the remains of honored ancestors. Seems like a smart move. But then he returned in 750. Ichiban walked again on Rokugani soil, aided by a vast blood speaker cult. He possessed the body of one of his strongest followers, and once more began summoning an army of the undead in efforts to conquer Rokugan. So he marshaled his monstrous forces until a brutal clash known as the Battle of Sleeping River ensued. Lasting several days, the battle saw the Bloodspeakers and their undead legions once more defeated, albeit at a heavy cost to the imperial forces. Ichiban himself was never found. Some say that his body was still in his tomb, cackling in the darkness as his mind reached across the world. Others claim that the tomb had never existed, or that a tomb with his name did exist, but Ichiban had never been the one interred in it. Wow, so some mysterious elements to those conflicts here. Then we get into the Battle of Grim Resolve in the 7th century, where the Lion clan's martial power was put to grim purpose, his legions being deployed at the Emperor's order to obliterate the Bear clan, a minor clan that supposedly had fallen into terrible corruption, driven by the blood-tainting sorcery known as Maho. The truth of the matter is more problematic, and may not be as unequivocal as the official histories record. We won't get much into that, because that sounds like interesting reading for yourselves when you buy the book. Then we had the battles of the Great Famine in the latter part of the century, where crops failed and disease spread. Haphazard and often tyrannical leadership throughout the empire exacerbated the population's misery. Although the imperial histories downplay the era as a relatively brief period of strife that soon led to a resumption of a glorious time of prosperous peace, the bitter truth was that the empire was riven by almost 5 years of rampant starvation and disease, riots, insurrection, and open war amongst the clans. Then we get into the 8th century and the battles of Kudentomba and the Great Climb. So here again we feature a lion general, Akodo Yokotsu, who was betrothed to Phoenix Samurai Isawa Moroko as part of a series of negotiated agreements between the two clans. And then we ended up with a serious battle going on here, serious enough to get a map. So the Battle of Kudentomba was laid out here. We had a pass sealed off, a combined Shugenja force. We have Yokotsu's forces facing off against a Dragon Infantry and Phoenix Infantry arrayed together. Thankfully, they were combined, I suppose, due to that betrothal arrangement alluded to earlier in that section. So again, we have some lessons of history from this conflict, and the sidebar here on the occasional breaking of betrothals. Then we had the Battle of the Hour of the Wolf, one of the most infamous battles ever fought in Rokugan, and one of the most poorly understood. This may be because it is remembered as a terrible tragedy for the lion. It's obtained an almost mythic status, only reinforced by the eerie legends that have grown in its aftermath. Wow, okay. So then, 3 years after Fuling was defeated on the Day of Thunder, the Kami Shinjo led her clan on a long, arduous journey beyond the boundaries of the empire. Most of her clan, known as the Kirin, after a fantastic enchanted creature, took form similar to that of a horse, followed Shinjo on her long journey. Those who remained eventually became a minor clan in their own right, the Fox clan. The bulk of the Kirin journeyed across the plain of wind and stone and through the burning sands. Eventually, they achieved an almost mythical status among the Rokugani. With great surprise, then, that in the year 815, a large force, mostly mounted on powerful war horses, suddenly arrived in the southern reaches of the empire, having apparently traversed the Shadowlands. The crab who encountered them first immediately prepared to withstand an assault by these strange outsiders. These travelers claimed, however, to be the long-lost Kirin clan, now called the Unicorn clan. For nearly 800 years, they had wandered and explored the world outside the empire, and now they were back. Wow. So quite a striking return for the Unicorn clan. Then in the year 820, we had the Battle of Snow Plain, where the Lion clan faced an unprecedented and complex situation. Nearly half of its lands had just been given to the returned Unicorn lands. The stage was set for some conflict there. Then later, in the year 1100, a bitter dispute flared in the Imperial Winter Court between a high-ranking Lion clan general, Matsu Uniri, and the Phoenix clan's Master of Water, Isawa Kayoko. The dispute boiled over when a Shiba commander joined the argument, agreeing with his general that the water elementals should do more than just heal. Then there was a fight of magic against steel. So that led to the Battle of Fate Gorge, a testament to the scarcity and potency of Shugenja in the Empire. Invoked by only a handful of Isawa elementalists, the fury of the elements can turn the tide on a battlefield, or wreak havoc upon war camps and supply lines. Despite this, the clans rarely employ Shugenja in battle, maintaining the same caution advocated by Kayoko. There we go. Then we have the Battles of Toshiranbo. This was established by the Lion clan in the 5th century. Violence behind Courtliness City, more commonly known as Toshiranbo, is located in a key strategic position between 4 great clans and surrounded on all sides by fertile farmland. So this used to be the site for clashes for control, and the battles of Toshiranbo demonstrate multiple aspects of Rokugani warfare, but 2 in particular stand out. First, the Crane and Lion clans elevated the political scheming around permissible interclan combat to a veritable art form. Despite hundreds of years of battle and bloodshed, and only a few very specific instances where their conflicts officially considered war. Second, the battles of Toshiranbo exemplify the Rokugani preference for direct assault over siege warfare. Then we get into the Lion clan themselves. Codifying Bushido, the way of the warrior, is among the Lion's most influential contributions to Rokugani culture. Of course, there are 4 great families of the Lion clan. We have the Akodo. They sought to create the greatest fighters and tactical minds thanks to the Kami Akodo. They have a reputation of values of merely following Bushido is not enough. Bushido must be fully embraced, all tenets given equal weight. And then there's some information about their culture and traditions. And here we have a zoom-in map of the Lion clan lands here. So what do we have? The lands of the Lion and the Imperial provinces. We have various key palaces. Kyuden Doji, the palaces of the Crane. So we have some crane lands down here. We have Last Breath Castle, which was outlined in the previous supplements we looked at. Some villages along the way. The Castle of Vigilance, Otsan Uchi, which is the Imperial Castle, Palace of the Emerald Champion, and then we have Humility's Lesson, it's an interesting name, Sacred Watch Palace, Castle of the Swift Sword, and some more Lion Clan areas around here, and then Kyote Castle. As always, a very beautiful and artistically developed map here. So then we have some more lessons of history here, including imperialism in retrospect, the learnings from the lands of Akodo, and the ancestral seat of the Akodo's family's power, the Heart of Vigilance Shrine, which is located on the map, and the Authorized City as well. As an NPC stat block, we have Akodo Shosuke, second-born scion of the Itagawa vassal family. He is determined to become an expert in wielding the weapons as well, and not merely forging them. He has a self-forged katana, which is ceremonial, razor-edged, and resplendent. Lovely. His special skills include detailed precision. When making an attack or movement action check, he may remove 2 strife. For each strife he removes this way, he adds 1 void dice set to opportunity to the check and receives 1 fatigue. He also can do quick fix. As a support action, Shosuke may receive 3 fatigue and 3 strife to remove the damaged item quality from one weapon or set of armor at range 0 to 1. There we go. So then we have the Matsu family, synonymous throughout the empire with both the best and the worst of the Lion Clan, embodying its greatest strengths and weaknesses. They have a natural aversion to hesitation. Boldness and impetuous action are virtuous in Matsu culture, or as the Matsu put it, hesitation is 1,000 deaths. Okay. A sidebar here on the Death Seeker tradition, and some more about the life of the Matsu combatants and the stringent standards of the Matsu who pass their tests as a sign of their eternal devotion. And then we have the lands of the Matsu, including the Hall of Ancestors, Humility's Lesson, which is the largest lion keep against the mountainous scorpion border, the Last Breath Castle, which we saw in the castle sourcebook we looked at before. And as an example NPC, we have Matsu Daoko. She collected a dozen house cats in the garden tea house and was feeding and caring for them. More unusual was the rapport she shared with the felines. They seemed to follow her lead. When she was 14, she received a newly weaned lion club, a rare honor for an inexperienced student. Now a proud student of the Matsu Beastmaster tradition, Naoku and Tommy, her lioness companion, used their bond in their work as cartographers and scouts. So she wields a yari, and her abilities include whirling claws and spear. When performing an attack action against a target at range 0 of one of Naoko's allies, such as Tommy, Matsu Naoko may spend opportunity to make them suffer the disoriented condition. She can understand the motives of cats great and small and can communicate with them in a rudimentary way. And she's a Beastmaster, so Tommy the lioness is never far away from Naoko and uses the hunting cat profile on page 327 of the core rulebook. Wow. So Beastmaster seems like a pretty cool thing to be in this game. Then we have the Ikoma family. So they have a reputation as the lion's resident troublemakers, an impressive feat for the clan of the impetuous Matsu. This reputation is owed in part to the infamy of the family's founder, Ikoma, who notoriously preferred brothels and sake houses to dojo and tea gardens, and who fought with his bare hands against armed opponents. In spite of this, the Ikoma are usually regarded as the most approachable lion family. So then, of course, we get to their culture and traditions. Their lands, including Sacred Watch Palace, which looks lovely here. City of Honor Sacrifice. And then we have a sample Ikoma. In this case, Ikoma Shinko was not born a member of the samurai caste, but was adopted by an Ikoma samurai who pitied the war orphan while also recognizing her usefulness. She has inexhaustible politeness and a calming presence, but is also skittish martially. Her abilities include being slippery once per scene. As a movement and scheme action, she may receive up to 3 fatigue. Increase the TN for checks targeting her by 1 for each fatigue received in this way. And she has a flexible persona. Choose up to 2 shuji of the same element of rank 3 or lower. Until the end of this scene, Shingo can perform those shuji. Oh, very flexible. Then we have the Kitsu family. So members of the Kitsu family are rarely encountered beyond lion borders. Other Rokugani regard them as unusually fierce for Shugenja, blunt in manner, and strangely comfortable with death. Among the principles of Bushido, the Kitsu most highly venerate the tenets of honor, compassion, and righteousness. So there's some bits about their culture and traditions, of course. Their holdings including Blue Chrysanthemum Village, the Castle of the Swift Sword, which looks quite beautiful down there. And then we have the Kitsu Tombs. And as an example, Kitsu, we have Kitsu Ginchio, medium in training. Not having yet reached Genpuku, Ginchio is nonetheless one of the most powerful Kitsu mediums in generations. She wants only to be a painter and storyteller, but to leave one's abilities undeveloped is unthinkable to the Kitsu. If they knew that some of the spirits Ginchio has been communing with aren't honored ancestors but vengeful ghosts, perhaps they would think otherwise. She has mystical intuition and a holy personage, but she's also just a child and is haunted by some negative spirits. This must be her up here. Her abilities include Disciple of Secret Lore, She can choose up to 4 invocations and 3 rituals, and she can perform these invocations and rituals, okay? Once per game session, she can become possessed by an ancestor spirit, apply any one appropriate NPC template to Ginchio's profile, and adjust her conflict ranks by +1. This effect persists until the end of the scene. Well, that's quite useful. And her stats already aren't bad. All 3s and 4s on her main skills. Not a lot of glory, but decent level of honor there at 60. Now we get into the Badger Clan, the Defenders of the Empire. Very cool. It is every samurai's duty to protect the Empire and its inhabitants. For the Badger, standing between Rokugan and the hordes of Gaijin on horseback beyond the Great Wall of the North Mountains, this duty colors every part of their lives. They protect the few passable mountain trails, acting as sentries and lookouts. They were founded in the 2nd century by a young crab named Hida Domogu, enjoyed sumai or wrestling above all other pursuits. Okay, so we have a detailed history of the development of the Badger Minor Clan. Their lands lie entirely within the Great Wall of the North Mountains to the west of Dragonlands. The only known access to Badger lands from the rest of Rokugan is through the Path of Woe, which passes all the way through the mountains and out of the Empire. Since defending the path is the purpose of the clan, almost every Badger holding sits in a strategic position along this path, its people ready to repel invaders. The terrain within the mountains is largely cold and unforgiving, but the Badger use their ingenuity to work with their land. They make the most of every patch of volcanic soil, every ore-rich vein in the rock, every hot spring and sunny valley. Badger Shugenja, however, are rare, so they tend to use drums during rituals, but they also use them to send messages from one fortress to another, and each patrol includes a drummer who can signal messages that can convey a great deal of information, and most Badger samurai can interpret the messages hidden in the rhythms. We have some key locations for the Badger clan. There is the Castle of the Badger, the home of the Ichiro Daimyo, an enormous fortress built high on the mountainside, overlooking the widest and most open section of the Path of Woe. It's roughly in the center of Badger territory, and the only castle the clan owns. They also have the Badger's Scowl, a fierce-looking craggy volcano, long been dormant but supplies hot springs and steam vents. We have the Fudeheshu Mine, irregular and jagged in its construction, the 2nd largest Badger holding and home to the Fudeheshu Daimyo, and in times of need acts as a Badger fortress. There's also the Mulberry Valley, so there's a silkworm farm here. Perfect place to grow a rare variety of mulberry tree. Children help feed the silkworms in their caves, bringing in baskets of leaves from the valley, and talented Badger samurai paint breathtaking mountain landscapes on the silk before it is sold to other clans. There's also a mysterious shrine at the mountains near Badger's Scowl that offers no clue as to the kami that might inhabit it. Badger patrols seemingly come across it, seemingly by accident, and silently pay their respects before moving on. Only the Sumai champion ever goes there with purpose to sit in contemplation. As an example, we have Ichiro Hinata, Sapper. His duties involve checking traps and fixing or replacing them as necessary, so he's something of an engineer as well as a warrior. He also undertakes patrol duty, as most Badgers are expected to do. He has the engineer's hands, but he is rather uncouth socially. He has a Sapper axe, and his abilities are Badger Sapper. He can spot Badger-made traps and automatically points them out to any character with whom he is traveling. As a movement and support action, he can disarm or reset one trap without making a check. However, he also has sour moods. His demeanor is usually good-natured. However, if he becomes compromised or unmasked, his demeanor becomes gruff until the end of the scene. If he's had a particularly bad day, he may also start a scene gruff to signify this fact. Interesting. And then we have another example NPC, Fudeheshu Ayaginu, Sumai Champion. He has held the title of Sumai Champion of the Badger Clan for 2 years in a row. Oh, it's a she, actually. Excuse me. A woman of great renown within the clan, and her name is well known to Sumai enthusiasts across Rokugan. So she has quite strong stats, as you can see, especially in Earth. She has the strength of a mountain, the wisdom of ancient stones, but also is stricken with soft-heartedness. She is equipped with a grip of iron, and she has the ability of crushing waterfall throw. Making a martial arts unarmed check, Ayagino may spend opportunity as follows. If either the target silhouette or vigilance is lower than opportunity spent this way, the target suffers the immobilized condition and receives 4 fatigue. Otherwise, if the target silhouette or vigilance is lower than opportunity spent this way, the target is thrown 2 range bands in a direction of Ayaginu's choice and receives 4 fatigue. Fascinating. And now we get into the rules for how to build a Badger Clan player character. So we have the basics here. If you join the Badger Clan, you get a ring increase of +1 to Earth and +1 to Martial Arts Unarmed. Your status is 25, so a bit lower as a minor clan with a particularly dedicated purpose. You can be also a member of the Ichiro family. They dominate much of Badger life since the clan's founding. You can increase your Earth ring again or add 1 to Fire. You can increase fitness and tactics skills. You get a glory of 35 and a starting wealth of just 3 koku. And then you have, of course, the standard, what does your character know most about, and what does Bushido mean to your clan. And then we get in some new schools. We have the Agasha Aesthetic School, which is a Shugenja and Bushi combo. See an example down here. Their school ability is to stand as the mountain. After you channel an invocation, increase your physical and supernatural resistances by an amount equal to the number of dice you reserved to a maximum of your school rank. This effect persists until the start of your next turn. At mastery level, they gain Soul of Deepest Stones. When you successfully make a check to augment or mend a target, add a number of bonus successes equal to your ranks in fitness. All right. Then we have a Akodo Soldier School, which is a Bushi. This is a lion samurai renowned across Rokugan for their prowess in war. They have the Drilled Precision School ability. When making an attack or movement action check, you may remove an amount of strife from yourself up to your school rank. For each strife you remove this way, add 1 kept void dice set to opportunity on the check and receive 1 fatigue. In rank 6, you get the mastery ability of Strike Without Shadow. When you succeed at an attack or movement action check, you may spend 1 void point to add bonus successes equal to your ranks in fitness. Then we have the Daidoji Harrier School. There are rumors of a long run of Daidoji battlefield agents who gather intelligence and disrupt enemy supply lines. So they have the ability of Explosive Arrival. They have some ninjutsu access as well. After you perform an attack action against a target who is dazed or unaware of your presence, that target receives strife equal to your school rank. If your target is an enemy leader's cohort in a mass battle, the enemy army also receives that much panic. Oh, interesting. And their mastery abilities to spread chaos. That sounds fun. After you use your school ability during a duel or skirmish, your target and each other character friendly to them in range 0 to 3 suffers the dazed condition. After you use the school ability in a mass battle, the leader of the cohort you targeted suffers from the dazed condition. You can really spread some bad conditions among the enemy army then. Then we have the Hida Battle Leader School, Bushi and Courtier combo. Unlike all other clans, the crab are continually at war. Even the lion cannot claim the same. So they have the ability of Thunderous Courage. Once per scene after you perform a support action, you may choose any number of characters within a number of range bands equal to your ranks in command. Each chosen character treats their composure as increased by your school rank. This effect persists until the end of the scene. During a mass battle, if you are a leader, your army treats its discipline as increased by your school rank. Well, that's very helpful. They have Unbreakable Resolve as the mastery ability. Compromised characters affected by your school ability can keep a number of dice containing strife up to your ranks in command. Interesting. Then we have the Ichiro Grappler School. So it looks like a bit of sumo action here. Sumai is a very serious sport in most of Rokugan with traditions and rituals that date back hundreds of years. Few are as devoted to it as the Badger and Crab clans, however. They gain the ability of the Badger's Hold. After you succeed at an attack action, check using the martial arts unarmed skill. If the target is immobilized or prone, they also receive fatigue equal to your school rank. Then at mastery level, they gain Killing Grip. When you inflict a critical strike on a target, if the target is immobilized or prone, you may receive 3 fatigue to increase the severity of the critical strike by 2 times your rank in fitness. Okay, so the fitter you are, the deader they will become. Ichiro Ironsmith School, Artisan and Courtier. So they will be creating works of art in the form of weapons and armor for the Badger. They hold the Hide of Iron School ability. Once per game session, when you make a check to craft, improve, or maintain a weapon or set of armor, you may receive an amount of fatigue up to your school rank to reroll that many dice. At mastery rank, they gain Tenacity of the Forge. When you create a new set of armor, you may apply 2 different patterns you know to it instead of 1. Then we have the Ide Messenger School, which is a courtier school. They have the Sympathetic Bearing. After you make a check for initiative or enter the scene for a narrative scene, you may choose another character in the scene. That character removes strife equal to your school rank, and you reduce the TN of your next social skill check targeting that character by 2. Interesting. They gain the Herd Flourishes Together mastery ability at rank 6. When you make a social skill check, you may spend opportunity as follows. Spend 2 opportunity, choose another character's social objective that you know. You may transfer any number of momentum points you have accrued to the completion of their objective. After that character completes their objective, you gain the support of that character's group advantage, if you do not have it already. Cool. Very much a socially oriented school. Then we have the Isawa Tensai School. So these are Shugenja. They have Elemental Inspiration as the school ability. They may choose air, earth, fire, or water, and that's your inspired element. When making a check to activate an invocation of your inspired element, add a number of rolled void dice set to opportunity results equal to your school rank. When making a check to activate an invocation of your inspired element, you trigger Spiritual Backlash only if you keep 4 or more dice containing strife symbols, instead of 3 or more. When making a check to activate an invocation not of your inspired element, you trigger Backlash if you keep 2 or more dice containing strife symbols, instead of 3. So you get much better at using your inspired element, but there's a loss in similar terms to your use of other elements. At rank 6, you gain Attuned Invocation. Once per scene, when making a check to activate the invocation of your inspired element, you may spend a void point. If you do, you may keep any number of your rolled dice instead of a number up to your ring value. Wow. Finally, we have the Beastmaster. I was waiting for this one. So this is the Bushi skill. We see here a lioness. All Matsubushi are ferocious warriors, but Beastmasters are doubly dangerous, for they always have devoted animal companions fighting at their side. So their starting advantage, they have an animal bond. Their school ability is one with the pride. Increase each of your bonded animals' endurance, composure, and ranks in martial skill group by an amount equal to your school rank, but its skill rank still cannot exceed 5. If a bonded animal is a minion, it becomes an adversary instead. At mastery level, they gain the soul of a lion. After you perform an attack action, each of your bonded animals may perform an attack action against the same target if able. If your attack action did not succeed, reduce the TN of that of your bonded animal's attack action check by 2. Alright, then we have the Yogo Penitent Order, Bushi and Monk. So these are trained in monasteries scattered across Scorpion lands. So they have the Oath of Sacrifice school ability. Once per scene, when you defend against damage or suffer an immediate strike, you may unleash your current Kiho, immediately end its enhancement effect, then resolve its burst effect as if you had a number of bonus successes equal to your school rank, plus the amount of fatigue you received or the severity of the critical strike you suffered. The burst effect has one or more targets. You may choose appropriate targets in range. If you have used this already this scene, you may spend 1 void point to use it again. You can do it any number of times, provided you have void points to spend. Interesting. So then you have the Empty Soul Key mastery ability. When you defend against damage, if all your void points are spent, treat your physical and supernatural resistances as being equal to your void ring. Interesting. Then we get to our new advantages and disadvantages. Again, I'll largely just skip through these with a few examples. We have Guiding Ancestors, Territorial Adherent. There's some specific passions, such as Ancestry, Glorious Deeds. You can have adversities like a Blood Feud. Alternate scar disadvantages here in a sidebar. You can have specific anxieties, including belligerence, being a braggart, meaning you can't resist an opportunity to share your great deeds with others, and you grow distressed when your audience isn't impressed. After performing a check to share your past deeds with others, without emphasizing your own accomplishments, so if you make a courtesy water check to allow a superior to take credit for your deeds, or a performance water check when recounting a tale in which you played a part, you receive 3 strife. If this is the first time that has occurred this scene, gain 1 void point. Okay. Really focused on your own accomplishments there. And then we have some new background heritages as well. So we have things like Born on the Battlefield, Strategic Mastermind. So this will be when players create a new samurai who has ancestral connections to the Lion Clan or to famous masters of the battlefield. So you can also have victories against the Crane, victory against invaders. You could be shamed by defeat. You could be the Blade of 10,000 Battles, been entrusted with a storied weapon with an ancient history and lineage. You could be gifted with a lost heirloom. You could be a selfless sentinel. You could be descended from a mighty conqueror. Or you could be the right hand of the emperor. The crowning glory of your line is a victory one of your ancestors won in the name of a past emperor. We have some new weapons as well. The Ichiro Sapper Axe, which we saw referenced in one of the schools earlier. Nagayari, Nagamaki, and Yoroidoshi, each of which has their own qualities, rarity, and range, damage, and so forth. Some descriptions of each of these. They're mostly polearm, it seems like. Then we have some new hand weapons. The Yoroidoshi, which is designed for stabbing. We have some new specialized arrowheads, including steel-tipped jade inlay, which has the sacred quality, good for fighting Shadowlands creatures. We have the obsidian splinter, with +4 deadliness, forbidden, razor-edged, and unholy qualities. Then you can have some new personal effects. Animal helms, blasting powder, so good for the sappers out there. Battlefield medical packs for the medics. Brilliant flares, used for battlefield signaling. You can buy a leader or commander's war fan. Mempo, which is a mask to cover their face on the battlefield, partially for protection and partially for intimidation. The Sahai, used for non-verbally communicating orders to troops. It's a war baton that doubles as a status symbol for commanding officers. A smoking pipe, so you can fill with tobacco, opium, or other substances to calm themselves before or after the battle. The Tetsubishi, which is a type of caltrip, so these can be used in front of fortifications as a defense or to delay pursuers. You have the Umajirushi, resembling a soldier's Sashimono banner. It sets a daimyo or general apart as they ride into battle. Then there are a few blessed treasures as well, pertaining to the glorious history of warfare in Rokugan. So we have the Banner of Amaterasu. So when it's exposed to direct sunlight, all friendly forces hear battlefield orders in the voice of their first martial instructor. The banner has the Courage of Seven Thunders invocation within it, which the wielder may perform once per session using the command skill instead of theology. You have the Claw of the Kitsu, so it has the durable and sacred item qualities. It's, when carried in a pouch or wrapped cloth, a claw struggles as if trying to escape. It also has the Vapor of Nightmares invocation within it, which the wielder may perform once per session using courtesy instead of theology. You have the 5 legendary Akodo daggers. They grow uncomfortably hot if the blades of 2 or more of them come into contact, and each dagger has the biting steel invocation within it, which the wielder may perform once per session using the martial arts melee skill instead of theology. There are also some leadership scrolls. They have the durable and sacred item qualities. You may spend 1 void point to read from the scroll. If you do, they may use the tactics skill instead of the skill they would normally use when making social skill checks. Then there's some new item patterns. So we have the Akodo pattern, can be applied to a weapon or armor, so it increases the discipline of any army of which they are the commander by 5, but it has an XP cost and rarity modifier. Burning water pattern, so blasting powder fashion using the burning water pattern has damage reduced by 1, can be used when wet, however, or even underwater. We have concealment pattern, armor produced with a concealment pattern retains the war gear or gains the war gear quality and loses the ceremonial and resplendent qualities. Reduces supernatural resistance by 1. While a character wearing it is in obscuring terrain, they increase the TN of attack action checks targeting them by an additional 1 to a total of +2. Interesting. Then we have the Deadly Fangs pattern. So these are for polearms, and if an entire cohort is equipped with polearms with this pattern, its leader reduces the TN of the reinforce action by 1. The Fearsome Snarl pattern can be applied to a weapon or set of armor. It can't be concealable anymore, but it gains the war gear quality. Ichiro pattern, they have their price and lose the ceremonial and resplendent item qualities, but they are also produced in half the time it would otherwise take to make them, so good for mass battles and raising armies. The Mountain Silk pattern, if you're wearing a armor made with Mountain Silk, and you succeeded a check to resist a critical strike, you add 1 bonus success. Armor with physical resistance 2 or lower made using Mountain Silk loses the cumbersome quality and gains the durable quality. Armor with physical resistance 3 or higher made using Mountain Silk gains the durable quality and reduces physical resistance by 1. Then we have the Screaming Fire pattern. Blasting powder fashion using the Screaming Fire pattern has its damage reduced by 2. When it causes an army to receive 1 or more panic during a mass battle, that army receives that amount of panic +3 instead. In addition, the area it affects becomes imbalanced to all elements for 1 week. Wow. Then we have Parchment and Scrolls made with the Toriyama Endurance pattern gain the durable item quality, but only against the effects of fire and water. Then we get into some new techniques. We have Close Combat Kata, including Fierce Badger style, Thicket's Embrace style, Shattering Tide style. Some new rituals. So Beseeching Akodo's Judgment, Doji's Wisdom. We have Hida's Might, Shiba's Calm, Shinjo's Empathy. So we're appealing to Kami here. We can beseech Togashi's Vision. We can imbue things with thunder. And then we have some new Shuji as well. Borrowed Courage, Enticing People with Falsehoods, Parting Clouds with Steel, Earth Shuji, Fortress of Necessity, Steadying the Hammer, Fire Shuji, including Call of the Wild. So while an animal or spiritual companion can be a source of comfort, there are times when the untamed beast is needed. So you can increase the damage and deadliness of an animal or kami's weapons profile by 1, +1 for every 2 bonus successes beyond the first. Okay. So helpful if you have an animal companion as a Beastmaster. You can set righteous examples. You can have the Sting of Warrior's Pride. You can Smash the Heart. We have Water Shuji, including Preserving Strength, Enemies' Arrows, Battle of No Escape, all of which come with new opportunities, of course. A lovely picture here with a bit of Go being played. Once again, one of my favorite games, so it's nice to see it represented here. We have Victory Without a Sword. Then we have new ninjutsu as well, employing Terrible Thunder. So as a movement sport action, you may make a TN4 Skullduggery check and expend 1 charge of blasting powder to place it in your environment at a position at range 0 to 1 of you. You must forfeit honor equal to half your honor rank to use this technique. If you succeed, you set the blasting powder to explode at the end of the next round, and some or all of the following may occur. In a mass battle, a nearby cohort is caught by the blast. They receive 5 attrition and 5 panic, +1 per bonus success. You can blow up fortifications. You can affect cohort leaders. You can cause 10 physical damage, +1 per bonus success, plus the dazed condition, +5 strife. Wow. You can damage items, and you can damage structures as well. So you lose a lot of honor, which is probably not the greatest concern for a shinobi anyway, but a very powerful way to use your blasting powder. They can also be a Patient Viper, which sounds appealing. Vanishing in the Shadows, Wreaking a Havoc as well. Some of these have relevance to mass battle, which of course is the focus of the final chapter. So I won't go into these with great detail. I'm not familiar with the basic mass battle rules yet, so we'll just go through the basics here. So there are expanded rules on marshalling an army, how to make marshalling checks, determining your army's strengths, and how that interacts with your standing armies is explained in the sidebar here. Then we have methods of raising additional forces, including mercenaries. There's a table for determining your army's discipline, for raising allied forces, then tables for spending opportunity while doing your marshalling checks, and the different mercenary forces that you can hire, and the cost of koku per month in order to add them to your forces. Then the rules regarding allied forces, and then how you outfit and train your armies. So there are different doctrines available here. Battle-tested clans have their own doctrines as well. So let's see, we've got the crab. While this army would receive panic, it receives that amount of panic -2 instead. So they're more stalwart in combat. The lion, when they would receive one or more casualties or panic, and may remove an amount equal to the status rank of its commander instead. So they're more resistant to casualties and panic in mass battle. You can also have doctrines of fervor, sappers, siege defenders, striking as a storm, thunderous charges, and then you can have equipment upgrades, which include things like a baggage train, battlefield medical supplies, which seem very important, nagai-yari, which are needle-pointed spears arranged in a hedge, imposing sight for anyone, even heavy cavalry. And there's this table for army maintenance checks, so presumably things like baggage trains will help you with those when you have a shortfall of supply. Then you can upgrade soldiers' armor as well, and so there's army maintenance checks that need to come into play, so that's where the table comes in here. So armies receive casualties and panic, much like characters receive fatigue and strife. Character abilities can also remove casualties and panic. Additionally, armies recover via army maintenance checks. Harsh conditions can cause malices for armies, and there can be bonuses as well if the commander has high status, publicly promoted, if they have access to entertainment, if food is plentiful, etc. At the end of a successful campaign, you need to disperse your armies after they serve their purpose, letting members return to their previous lives and reducing the strain upon their estates. You can also keep hostages, and there's a table here for the ransom amounts you can demand for given status of your hostage. That's pretty cool. Then we have some more rules about battle zones, which are outlined in the basic rules. There's some more detail available here on mapping the area, designating battle zones, using them and assigning terrain features, which have different effects. As you can see, they can be entangling, confining, open, elevated, recessed, etc. And here's an example of mapping a set of battle zones for a mass battle. And here we have assigning terrain qualities. So once we've mapped out the zones here, then we assign each zone various terrain qualities. So there's none here. There's open quality for the upper plains. The rice paddies are entangling. Open in the lower plains. We have an impassable area in the mountains, so you must get around it somehow. And then we have the entangling quality for the eastern mountain pass. Interesting. And then we have assigning features as well. So you can add fortified gates here. You've got a mountain vale, diamond mines over here, a central hilltop, which is an elevated point, and adds some attrition reduction. There's a lion route through the mountain pass, and a lion supply train in the lion camp. That's very cool. So really quite a lot added to the mass battle mechanics here. I think if you wanted to play an extended military campaign between, the lion clan and somebody else, or even a mass Rokugani-wide campaign against a grand threat, there's plenty in here to play with. There's some new terrain types as well. Confining and elevated, open and recessed. And then there's some tips here for running military-themed campaigns, including wartime considerations, the causes of the war, conditions for victory, the courts when the battlefield is in play, opportunities for glory, and integrating war into an ongoing campaign that's not necessarily centered on war. And then some tips on equipping for battle and outfitting an army. So of course you need weapons, you need armor, mounts are important, particularly for, say, the Unicorn Clan, who rely on cavalry for a great deal. Fortifications are important as well. So you'll need to build them in the field, as well as maintain fortifications around your key home camps. There are special items and equipment as well for command and control. So things like war fans, horns, drums, flags, and banners, signaling mirrors, colored rockets, smoke pots, smoke arrows, and carrier pigeons. You'll need siege weapons if laying siege to a fortification. Sometimes you'll need other equipment like boats, barges, pontoon bridges. You might need cold weather gear if you're in a late fall campaign. And then, of course, you'll need to sustain the army. You'll need fodder for animals, materials for equipment maintenance and repair, medical support for the injured, and denial of any of these can quickly bring the enemy a victory without combat. So I love that logistics is really looked at seriously in these rules as well. Likewise, you need to worry about consumable supplies. So miscellaneous goods like replacing lost items like inner and outer wear, socks, sandals, and footwear, packs, satchels, cases, timber, things that artisan needs to make candles, rope, and so forth. And then routine maintenance for your weapons, armor, and equipment. More complex weapons such as swords and more sophisticated armor may require more specialized attention. Then you have, of course, the need for medics. They'll need opium-based painkillers, cleaning, stitching, and bandaging wounds. They'll need to amputate injured limbs on occasion. Some soldiers will be too badly injured to return to duty and must be evacuated. In that case, you'll need mobility support. So you need to cross rivers, traverse rugged and difficult terrain, etc. So we have some new titles as well for war-themed campaigns. We have Ashigaru, the foot soldiers. We have the Death Seekers. They are samurai who appear to charge headlong towards their death, heedless of any danger. This is assigned by disgraced lion-climbed samurai and may take this title upon themselves, pending approval from the GM. They get minus 25 status. They give up any positions they held and worldly possessions, save one weapon and a set of ceremonial robes. And you can become enraged. You can be an elemental guard. So this is a Shugenja title and is assigned by an elemental master. You can become an elemental legionnaire as well, granting you the strength of the element's title ability. You can be a general if you're at the pinnacle of your military command career. So while you're in command of a mass battle, your army's discipline value is increased by your ranks in command. When making an initiative check during a mass battle, increase the result by your ranks and tactics. Wow. You can be a Lion's Pride warrior as well. So if you're dealing damage to an enemy leader's cohort, increase the damage or attrition equal to the difference between your honor rank and the target's honor rank. You can be a Master Saboteur. You can be a Poet of War. So that can benefit the morale of your troops, help your troops rally back to battle. You can be a Quartermaster, so to help provision your army basically. You can be a Renowned Warrior, which improves your ability to inflict fatigue or critical strikes. You can be a Spirit Caller, which allows you to take more actions to summon skills from your ancestors. You can be possessed and count as an otherworldly being, using your ancestors' ring value and skill value in place of your own, as well as your ancestors' honor value. Wow. You can be a Sumai Master, so a master of wrestling, giving you advantages on your unarmed martial arts checks. You can be a Sword Saint, a living master of the sword, whose preternatural skills are hailed throughout the Empire. They have the Invincible Blade ability, so you may spend opportunity to reduce the severity of the next critical strike you would suffer, or you can increase the base damage and deadliness of your weapon by 3 until the end of the scene. You can also be a War College graduate, so that gives you gains in mass battle when you use the Draw Them In or Seize Victory strategic objectives, and the enemy army will get additional casualties and panic equal to your ranks in tactics. Wow. Then we have some new tables on spending opportunity in times of war. So some useful stuff here if you're in a mass battle campaign. Then spending opportunities in contested territory. And a little bit about tenets of Bushido, including honor, which is important when fighting on the battlefield. You must conduct yourself in an honorable way. Then we have new NPC demeanors. That includes the Badger Clan Samurai, the Historian, the Imperial Legionnaire, Instructor, Lion Clan Samurai, and Mercenary. So these templates can be used to add to base NPC templates to make them suit an example of these different NPC types. And with that, we come at last to the end. I tried to stay below an hour and failed again. I apologize. But again, a great book full to the brim with interesting stuff. I love all the info on military history. I'm definitely going to dig more into that. There's tons of info here on playing the Lion Clan, which is great. The new Mass Warfare rules look really genuinely interesting. I'm not normally big on kind of military-themed campaigns like that, but I'm actually kind of interested in trying these rules. It seems like they really pay attention to the struggles of logistics, particularly in the kind of fantastical era of history that's being portrayed in the game world. So I'm really pleased about that. Badger Clan looks interesting as well to integrate into the game. So overall, a strong recommendation if you're interested in military-themed campaigns. If you're not, a lot of the content may not be relevant to you, particularly the large sort of latter third of the book, which is mostly about mass battles, and a lot of the new titles and so forth and abilities relate to mass battles as well. But if you're interested in Lion Clan and Badger Clan stuff, this is definitely for you. So with that, I hope this was useful to at least some of you out there. Apologies for losing my voice a little bit during this. I've been doing a lot of videos recently and talking a lot, and it's having an effect on my throat a little bit. Hopefully it'll be a bit cleared up by next time. But in any case, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I will keep going through my rapidly accumulating L5R5E collection, and at the end of that, when I've covered everything I have so far, I will do a comparison video between the core books of 5E and 4E and have a little discussion with you about what I think about the comparison of those two systems. I don't think that it's useful to call one better than the other. I don't think that really makes sense particularly. So what I will do is try to give recommendations for specific styles of play that would benefit from one edition or the other. So look forward to that. Next up, I believe I will be covering the Rites of Waves, followed by Writ of the Wilds. So look forward to those in my upcoming L5R videos. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, be well, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye.